Hello. Hello, welcome in. That was fast, actually. I just started. Okay. Just doing some startup things while beginning of stream things. Alright. Just spreading the link of the stream around and all that. So are you interested in learning paper and all that, or Spigot stuff, or like just curious to see the stream? Alright, cool. There we go. Okay. So I have some idea of what I want to cover today. Okay. Let me quickly make sure. My Gradle version is correct. Yeah, there we go. It doesn't let me select Gradle 8.12 from the dropdown, but I can change it in the terminal. And I need that for the latest or snapshot paperweight build, I think. Possibly, we'll see. We're gonna cover that. Okay, hello. Here we are. This time I have my old just display capture, not just take window capture, but we'll make it work. Also, I'm finally set up properly at my desk. My my laptop's up, or one of my monitors used to be, and I have a USB hub, so I can plug my mic, keyboard, and mouse into my laptop all at once. I mentioned this in yesterday's stream when I was streaming No Man's Sky for the first time. It was a short stream, but hopefully today we can stream a bit longer. And I also have another stream that I want to do later today. Let me turn this music down a little bit. There we go. Yeah. It's another game stream planned later today, hopefully. Anyways, let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to cover the very basics from starting out with a Spigot project, not a paper project, just to show you guys the difference between paper and Spigot. In case you already know Spigot and you want to just learn paper, then I could show you how to transition as well, and like stuff. Or if you're just starting out, you can just ride along till I get to the paper part. Okay, so this is our basic empty project. There's no plugin or anything. I don't have the Minecraft plugin for IntelliJ. just because I don't really like it that much. I think I've used it once maybe, and then I just didn't like how it interacted with whatever. I don't know. I'm not that much of a user of it, so I don't exactly know. I don't remember the problems I had with it necessarily. But anyways, I just like to start out blank anyways. It's just much easier in my opinion. Okay. Let me lower this again, and it's like going off right now. Okay. So here's our Spigot Gradle page. It has all the Spigot dependencies and whatnot. So I think we need, obviously we need this, the Spigot API. And we will be replacing this later for paper anyways, so this isn't too important here. Maven, local, I think that might be it. Let's go ahead and replace this with just 1.0.0, and yeah, so reload that, see if that works. Okay, let's go ahead and make our first class. And if you're new to Java, this is the basic package layout. You have your domain here, or if you don't have a domain, I think people usually do me dot then your name. I would put me dot mantis, you would put me dot whatever your name is, and then you would put the plugin name afterwards. I think some people like to use like their GitHub URL instead of their me dot username, so you can use that as well. I think it's like I don't know what it is, to be honest, but I'm just gonna keep going with my domain here. So now I'm gonna do main class here. Let's see if the import worked. Okay, it did not, so we're gonna have to fix that. Spigot being finicky a little bit. Just gonna take this one up here. See if that works. Yep, okay. This is our main class, basic main class, right? And now we will have a instance, an instance field, a static field, private, of course, and we'll have a public getter for it. There we go. And now I usually like to use an onload. I usually like to override onload and then set instance. We go to this here instead of the on enable. Just because you can. Onload triggers before on enable, in case you're wondering. So now wait on disable. There we go. These are 3 main methods in our main class that I typically use, and then obviously our static get instance and all that. Hello, welcome in. Finally, live again coding, first coding stream of the year. Yesterday streamed No Man's Sky, and tonight I plan on streaming some Warframe perhaps. I just downloaded it earlier. I haven't played it in years, but I have played it. We'll see if I can get my account back or something, because I had like Necros Prime or something. I don't know. It's been a long time. So if you're interested in that, you can stick around for later tonight, unless something happens and I just don't, but we'll see. But right now we're just going over the start of the plugin here. I'm starting out in Spigot just to make a simple plugin, and then I'm going to transfer over to Paper to show you guys how that works. This plugin is just a basic tutorial to start off for newcomers if they want to learn. So they will cover commands, config, listeners, and I think that's about it for my current plans, but we'll see what happens. And then once I make all those in Spigot, I'm going to transfer over to Paper just to show you guys the transition process and the differences between Spigot and Paper as they are now for 1.21.4. So this is just a tutorial for now. We'll get back into other plugin projects, streams like Astro at some point. I'm just kind of bouncing around. So yeah, this is our main class. We're pretty much done with it right now. Let's go ahead and make like our plugin.yml, I suppose. So in Spigot, you have a plugin.yml main, basic tutorial. We link it to our main class here, dev fable basic tutorial. So whatever your package is that you made, and then the class that's inside that package, just like this. And then we do a name for the plugin that will show up in the /plugins list. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, before you said just kidding, I'm like, what do you mean Visual Studio for Java? I think I do have Visual Studio Code downloaded but I use it for other things like, I don't know, Python. I also have normal Visual Studio for my C++ work in college that I do. Anyways, we'll do a version, we'll say version, and now we have to do a process resource task in our build.gradle here to basically move this, copy this string over into here when we compile our plugin. Which I don't remember off the top of my head, so I'm gonna go over to Astra and just copy it from there because it's really simple. So this is my Astra repository. It's public. Mantis Recode is the most up-to-date branch, and it's the one I've been making in my live streams. So we go SRC main resources. No, I don't need to be in here. I need to do our main build.gradle right here. And then I just need to copy this here. And that's about it. Now I can paste this into here. So it's just a process resources task. It defines a property, a version, it's the version, yep. And then it replaces it, it basically injects it into whatever file matches here, and it expands the property we defined. And it'll replace version with our version up here when we compile it. Not university, but I am already in a university technically, but I do it online for game dev. So yeah, so I already am in university, I guess I could say, for game dev. My knowledge in Java has helped out a lot, by the way. It's just been a breeze in my opinion. Yeah. Okay, so we have our version, name, and main, but if you don't know, modern plugins, even in Spigot, they have another field that you can do called API version, and you just normally set that to the major version that you're coding in, so 1.21 in this case. And that'll if you ever do /plugins in game and you see a plugin that has an asterisk next to it, that means it's a legacy plugin and that they didn't define the API version in the plugin.yml. So if you define it here, there won't be an asterisk next to it, and it won't be counted as a legacy plugin. This is also useful for enum stuff, like material stuff, so that it can, you know, detect which blocks and enums and materials or whatever you should be using. And yeah, that's right. API version done. We could do a description. We could say basic paper plugin tutorial. Paper tutorial plugin. We could say author. Your username. I believe there's authors. You could set multiple in a string list. So you could say authors. You could say annotates. You could say second person here, or you can format it like a string list, like it was trying to do. Second person, like you know that. But I'm just gonna stay with author. We can input a website. So I'm gonna say Discord. Available. Just gonna put my Discord right there. So yeah, you can do that, and this will appear whenever you do /about and then your plugin name, as well as the author in the description. I guess as well as the version. So that's everything there. We're good to go for that right now. So let's go ahead and work on. Let's do a basic command. Let's do commands dot. It's a basic command, right? I mean, we put it in a commands package for organization there. And you know, if you're not new to Spigot, you'll know that normally you do extends command executor. It's like that, and then you implement it, and then you implement the method on command. And this is where you do all your command logic here. Normally it's sender, command, string label, and string array of args. Normally it looks like that. This is the, the typical command whatever. Yeah. Okay, the music is actually quite quiet now. Turn it up just a little bit. Alright. There we go. So, we have our basic method here. We're gonna say send message, you ran new basic command. Yep, just like that. And to further go into depth, we're gonna say, send another message, colorful message, and we're gonna say get color dot red plus. That way it'll make it red. There's another way that we could do this technically. If you've ever worked with public plugins in Spigot, you might be familiar with legacy color codes, which is what they're called now, where you do chat color, translate alternate color codes, you put in this & symbol, and then the text to translate, in which case you could say &C red message, or you can do &B blue or aqua message. It's like that. That's another way to translate color codes. This is useful mostly for configuration files. So whenever you have a config and you have a string in there and you want people to be able to color it, you would use the method chat color.translate alternate color codes. And this method is from work.bucket.chatcolor, I guess. So that should also parse this, and it'll replace this string here &B with aqua, like chat color to aqua, and then it'll send it in that color. So that's all we need for the basic command, and we don't need anything in the constructor here. So technically you don't even need to create this. Yeah. But what if we want a subcommand? Let's say we can return true here. So if there's no arguments being input, then we can just return there. That means that they only type / like basic command or whatever. And then we can say if arg0 equals ignore case, and we'll say what should we say? Help? Whatever. We'll say Sender send message. You're in the help command. Subcommand. There we go. And that's it. We're done. Now we have a subcommand just like that. Pretty easy, right? Not hard at all. And then what we can do is now I'll just register it in the on enable it normal. So just like that, and then we can go ahead and register it. So to do that, we do get server, get plugin. No, what was it? It's something. Get command. Yeah, get command. We'll say basic, and then set executor new basic command, like that. That's how you set the. That's how you normally register a command in your Spigot plugin. But for this to work, we actually have to go to our plugin.yml, set commands, and we put basic, and then we can do a description. A basic Spigot command, right? With subcommand. Yeah. We could say permission. Basic dot. Whatever. So you can set a permission like that if you wanted. But I think we're just good with this. I think there's a default permission. I don't know. You can check the plugin YML wiki for Spigot. Spigot plugin YML right there. This is spigot.org wiki plugin-yml, and it has everything you can put in your plugin.yml: the main, the name, the version, the API version. Signal to the server that your plugin has been coded with a specific version in mind, and that it should not apply any sort of backwards compatibility measures. As a result, you will also need to make sure that you have programmed your code to account for reading of older configurations, data, etc. Each server version can decide how compatibility is achieved. Unknown or future versions will prevent the plugin from enabling. As the 1.14 release, the API version 1.13 is still allowed. However, the future versions may drop backward support based on this version. Yeah. There we go. Looks like you could do like API version 1.20.5 as well, but I'm not too certain on that. Maybe we can change it to 1.21.4. But I'm not sure if this is a valid API version. We'll see. It'll tell us. So yep, there's authors. There's load to state when your plugin should be loaded. It'll default to post world, which means it should load after the worlds do. There's also startup, which I believe means before the worlds load. Yeah. There's your website field. There's your dependencies you can list off. So you could say, you go in here and you could say depend placeholder API or whatever other plugin name here. That means if you try to load your plugin and you don't have, in this case, placeholder API, then the server will automatically shut off your plugin, disabling it, and it'll spit out an error saying you need placeholder API. Or you can also do soft depend, in which case you can put that back, right? So you can put another plugin. You can soft depend on another plugin, which means your plugin doesn't require the plugin that you list here, but it does have additional functionality if this plugin is present on the server. And that means you have to check manually if the plugin is on the server before you try to call any API from this plugin or any methods from this plugin. Usually I only use soft depend even if my plugin does require something. That way I can manually disable my plugin and spit out my own message, so it's not just a jumbled stack trace in the console. So I usually only use soft depend anyways. That's how you would do that. There's prefix, the name to use when logging to console instead of the plugin's name. So you can change the prefix. So instead of your plugin name, it'll be whatever you put there. Hello Tobias, welcome in. Yeah. I'm just currently explaining the plugin.yml stuff for Spigot, and then doing some more basic Spigot stuff before transferring over to Paper to show how that works. Okay, so yeah, there's load before, which allows you to list any plugin that your plugin should load after. No, it'll load before. Sorry, my bad. So your plugin will load before any plugin that you list here. Which I'm not sure. Yeah. I feel like this is a little weird. You should have a list of plugins that you should load after. Or a list of plugins that should load before your plugin. That way you don't have to go into, like, say, this plugin and you know, edit their plugin out by mail, or whatever. Libraries. Library loading is still a preview feature. It allows you to, instead of having implementations in your build.gradle dependencies and building them into your jar, you can put them here instead, and they will build on the server side and they'll provide it to your plugin that way. It's still preview, so you know. And then there's commands. Here you have your different stuff that you can define for commands. So obviously you have permissions, so you could say, or no, so this is just permissions on their own. Here is different command stuff you can do. Description, aliases for the name, permission for it, permission message. There's a usage message you can provide, and then yeah, permissions of description, a default value, so you can default it to true or false. True will default to true will always grant the player the permission. False default will not grant it to the player console. Op means it'll be true if the player's op, and not op is the opposite behavior of op. And you have permission children, and you know, all that stuff. Apparently there's plugin annotation and stuff you can do to make your plugin.yml for you. Yeah, but I'm definitely probably never gonna use that. There's your plugin.yml overview for you, which we are probably going to disregard once we move to Paper. So yeah, because they have their own plugin.yml stuff. But you know, just again going over our Spigot stuff before we transfer, just to show how it worked in Spigot and how it works in Paper to differentiate and whatnot. So yep, git command basic set executor, and we can build our plugin now, and we can test it on our server just to see if it works. You should always test your code basically as soon as you get it in a state that can be tested or ran. So I'm gonna put it here. I have a basic server setup here: run.bat, paper, jar, ops, whitelist, EULA, bucket, and server.properties. In here I have whitelist enabled, obviously, and I disabled the nether, and in here all I did was disable the end. That way the server doesn't have to generate those worlds, because we're never going to use them, especially on a test server like this. So put our plugin in here, and we can go ahead and run our server. I also have let perms and placeholder API, just, you know, for testing. Can run, and we can see it's going to generate all of our server files. We're not updated in a while yet, that's fine. We're using Java 21, Paper 1.21.4. And yeah, continue to wait while it builds. Okay. There we go. Done. I didn't see any errors. Yeah. Yep, there you go. Bucket plugins basic tutorial, let perm switch for API. That means our plugin is loaded. If we get on the server and it's red, then it means it didn't load properly or it broke in some way. Just go ahead and join the world of the server. Here we are. All right. Yeah. Great. Okay. Plugins. There we go. Basic tutorial. Perm Source API. Let's see if our command works. It did. Yep. You ran the basic command. Colorful message. Aqua message. Yep. I'm gonna do help. You ran the help subcommand. There we go. It also sends the message again because we didn't check for that, but we can fix that pretty easily. Simply move that in here. If args length is less than 1, then we send this, and then we return, and then we check which argument 0 is equal to, and then we return as well after that. Outside the if statement, because we don't have any other if statements. Yep. We can fix that. Stop the server. Get the new version in. Run it. And we are good to go again. And I know a lot of people like to use like plugman or just /reload to reload their plugin, but you really shouldn't do that. First off, /reload can break other people's plugins, is because many of them aren't made to work with like dynamically reloading, especially since it reloads every plugin and you can't like change that. But then there's also Plugman, which can also break plugins. If you reload a single plugin and another plugin that's enabled depends on that one, it could break the one that depends on it. So yeah, and it doesn't take long to restart the server at all, as you just saw. So now we have basic. There's our help command and stuff. Basic help. There we go. I ran the help command. But you may be wondering, what about like tab completion? So we can have it suggest us to type help here instead of just our username over and over like that. Well, with Spigot we have to do that manually. You can go down and say tab completer. So implement that method there. Okay. So this is actually a nullable method, as we could see. So we can go ahead and return null if we don't have anything that we want to suggest, and we don't want it to suggest the username. Actually, I'm not sure. How does this normally? It's not going to show me. Yeah, so sender, welcome in Uniton, I believe that's how you say your name. And these arguments are all the same as up in this method. They're all the same. Yeah, a sender, command, label, and args. The label is simply the like what you first type, like /basic. The label would just be the string basic. And if you're confused right now, Uniton, don't worry. I'm just going over the basics of Spigot first, and then I'm going to transition over to Paper to show you how that process works, and show you the differences between them. So we have, this is how we do a tab completer. It's a little annoying in Spigot, I will say, especially compared to Paper. So what you have to do is you have to say, yeah, I said welcome in, and I told you what I'm doing, because it says Paper tutorial in the title, but I'm on Spigot right now. So first off, we're going to check if the sender is not an instance of player, and if not, we're just going to return null. That way we don't have to try and suggest something if it's just a console typing it in or whatever. And then we're going to say if args length less than 1, we're going to say return collection singleton list of help. And otherwise we're going to return an empty list. I believe that'll prevent the tab completer from just completing our name and or suggesting our name. Just gonna do that. Okay, so there we go. And we don't need this variable here, but it's just there in case we do need it. This is known as a pattern variable. It works with for the instance of. Basically what happens is If it's inverted like it is now, then you can use player anywhere outside of here, as long as there's a return statement in this if statement here. And if it's not inverted, meaning we're checking, we're running code if it is a player, then we can use this inside of here. But it's inverted, so it means we can use it out here if we need it. And that's what a pattern variable is. For instance of Serio, we can build this again. Stop our server again. We can copy this over to there. Get rid of it again. And we just simply wait a couple seconds. Hopefully it doesn't dislike me returning immutable lists here. I don't see why it would dislike that. It's not going to change it or mutate the lists. Basic. And okay, yeah, so we actually need to fix this. If it does equal 1, I believe, then we suggest it. So do that. Yeah. And tab completers, if you don't know, they are not new features. They're really old by this point, but they were introduced in 1.13 with the introduction of Mojang's Brigator command system, which is what we're going to get into later when we transfer over to Paper, because Paper built in that command system and they recommended you to use it. So we'll get into that as well today, for sure. So here we go. We space and then it suggests help. And now that we returned an empty list, under any other circumstance, it no longer suggests our username. We hit tab and it doesn't do that. So we can do help, there we go, tab it, whatnot. But what about if you... Okay. But what about if you type A and you don't want it to suggest help because you didn't type out H and you wanted to type out something else? Well, we have to do that manually as well in Spigot, which is, a little annoying. But we say if RSelect equals 1, we say we can go ahead and filter out from this list. Filter, so we stream it and then we filter. The string starts with args 0 to 2 lowercase, just like that. And then we collect it, collect to list it. There we go. So now it'll filter out any string in this list if it doesn't start with what we currently have typed in for the argument. I have a Discord help server in the description if you want to paste it there, or you can DM me, or you can open a post in Cody's Discord. I know you're in that. I'm sure many people will help you out. So yeah, we've updated it. Now we can go back. And the purpose of 2 lowercasing it is so that it's like case insensitive. It doesn't have to be, starts with whatever. So if we type a capital H and whatnot, should be in the description of this stream. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that way if we're suggesting a lowercase help, it'll still show up if we type a capital H or a capital E or L or P or whatever. So we can go ahead and assemble. Again, you could definitely post it in Cody's Discord, Cody Simpson's Cortex development. There's a lot more helpers there than in my server. It's just me at the moment. So yeah, we built that. Now we can copy it over to here. All right. Here we go. Join back in. Basic. Now we help. Yep. See, it works. If I was to type A, it no longer suggests help. If I was to say HEI, it no longer suggests it. So yeah, that is how you do tab completion in Spigot. not too complicated, but it's still annoying to have to do manually. For everything you want to suggest, you have to, make a careful if statement. But we'll get into how it works in paper just shortly. Let's make a listener now. Let's go on and show how this works. Basic listener. So there we go. We have our listeners package. So we have another package for more organization. We're not going to put them in our main class like a lot of basic tutorials show. Okay. So for a listener, we implement listener from org.bucket.events, and we say event handler, and we just create our own method. It doesn't matter what we call the method. Returns void, of course, and we say on block break because we're gonna make a block break event listener. So the only thing that makes this event function as an actual listener and to run code when the event triggers is the event handler tag here. Yeah, I'm sure you will. I've only been doing it for a couple years. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, because that's the purpose of live streaming the tutorials. So here's our on block break event. We're gonna go ahead and say event dot get block get type, and we'll say here's a material. Get type returns the material of the block, so we'll say player event get player, and then we'll go ahead and send the player a message. Chat color dot red. Import it from that one. And okay, we'll say you broke a red, and then we'll say material two lowercase dot name dot two lowercase, and then we'll do an exclamation point, the white. There we go. So if you don't know what name is, first off, material is an enum. What that means is it is basically it's a list of different things. They all have the same methods as an enum, so whatever method you put that's not static in the enum, it'll be applied to every single one of these. So there's all the different materials in here, and there's for every enum there's a method called name and toString. They both normally will return the same thing, which will be the like for example, it'll return this string here, name or toString. But the difference is name cannot be overridden in an enum, while toString can be overridden. So if you use name, then you're guaranteed it'll return whatever it is, like air. Instead of toString only sometimes guaranteeing to return that, because people can override it in their enums to return something else. So there we go. We actually don't even need these variables here because we only have the one. We don't need the player variable since we're only using it once. We're only calling them once. And okay, there's our basic listener. Very simple stuff. We come back in our main thing here and we say get server, get plugin manager, register events, this to pass in our main class, and then we say new basic listener. Sorry, it's the other way around. Say new basic listener, and then we pass in our main class, which is this. This is the main class here. Okay, and then we go ahead and run this just to prove that it works. Stop the server. Here, plugins, play start. Yeah, no worries. Alright, so listeners don't actually change much in paper, so we're probably not even going to need to worry about that. but for now, we're just gonna roll with it. Just gonna go ahead and kill everything because we don't need a bunch of mobs taking up resources. Okay. So if we break a block, you broke a short grass, you broke a grass block, you broke leaves, you broke whatever oak log. So there's our listener. It just means, you know, whenever you do something that triggers the event, it'll run the code that you put to listen for, or in your class. Namely, right now, it's just sending us a message notifying us what we broke. And that's it. That's the very basics of Spigot for a plugin. Obviously, there are much more complicated things that we can delve into, but that's the basics. And yeah, before we continue over to paper, though, I want to do a basic config file. I usually just call it YAML config. Spigot actually has a basic config.yml thing that you can use in your main class, but I don't like to use that. I like to use my own. So yeah. Also, if you don't know what final does here, it just means nobody can extend this class, even though it's public. So we're going to say public YAML config, and we're going to pass in string file path, right? Private final string file path. So this file path, if you don't know what this means, it just means this class dot the file path member variable up here, because this is also called file path. So it just, this dot means that we're referencing this up here and not this. So we're going to say equals file path ends with .yml, and if it does, then we're just going to set it to file path. Otherwise, we're going to set it to file path plus .yml, like that. And we can go ahead and expand this out to make it look a little cleaner. There we go. Basically, this is the variable we're passing in, and this is the member variable up here. So we're checking if the variable we pass in ends with .yml, and if it doesn't, then we're going to add it to it while setting it file path to that. Yeah. Right now we're just using Spigot to go over the basics of that, and then we're going to transfer over to paper to show the differences and whatnot. I love the Spigot API. It's much better than Spigot. Did I say Spigot? I love the paper API. It's much better than Spigot. So we have the file path, and we need now a file configuration member variable and a private file member variable. Private file, turn new file, basic tutorial, get instance, get data folder, and then we're going to pass in the file path as a child. So that means it's inside of our data folder, and then whatever file we turned it to. Private public void on reload, or not on reload, just gonna reload. File configuration equals YAML configuration dot load configuration. We're gonna pass in file as a method, not this up here, not our member variable. Save file, or I'm gonna call it save changes, or maybe we can just call it save file configuration, because this method is going to save any changes we make to this into the file that's on the server. Well, right now I'm 20. I'll be 21 in 2 months, and I started a couple years ago, when I was still in high school, because my game, my academy that I was in high school for it's called Game and Sim. It didn't actually teach us anything coding related. The most coding we delved into was Scratch, and that was like, we barely even touched that. So I just started learning Java on my own for Minecraft plugins, and now I'm in college to do C++ game development, which Java has helped me with immensely because it's very similar, all the basics and stuff. So yeah, that answers that question. But thank you. So yeah, save file configuration. If file is null, or file configuration is null, we return, and then file configuration save to file, and this is going to need a try catch statement with like that. Thank you. Yeah, I not sure where my I'm not sure what I'll do with my game dev degree when I get it, but I don't know, maybe some game studio somewhere, or start trying to work on my own. I don't know. The gaming industry also is just kind of crumbling around itself these days. So yeah. And now save will, this method will be different from save file configuration, in which case we're going to save the file to the server. So if file is null, then file equals file. If file exists, return. And finally, we're going to get basic tutorial, get instance, save resource, file path, and we're going to not replace it if it exists, even though we already check. So this will save it from your resources folder to the server, unless it's already on the server. So that way you don't need it to be in your resources as long as it's made somewhere in the code or someone creates a config file in your plugin folder. So yeah. Nice, Uniton. Yeah, I think I started learning before people started using GPT for like coding and trying to learn with it, but I don't know. Even now, I don't use it. I try to avoid it, just because I know it could generate some inaccurate code, or like, could cause more hassle than it's worth. But yeah. So let me save and reload inside the constructor to generate the file. And there we go, our basic config class is done, which allows us to make any YML file, not just a plugin or a config.yml. And now we can go here, private config YML, and we can say config equals new config. There we go, and we can make a getter for it. Get config YML, just like that. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about not knowing enough though, because even I'm still learning new things, especially about the Spigot Paper API and NMS and all that. But I know the fundamentals of Java, and I know Java pretty well, I'd say. But you could still use GPT, but my recommendation is to only use it for ideas, not like how to code this or whatever. Especially since there's, in my college, for C++, my college heavily will punish you if you like use GPT without sourcing it and crediting it to GPT. So it's also a good habit to not rely on it for that, because technically it's plagiarism if you just copy paste from GPT. Same with like AI art. People frown upon people who try to claim AI art as their own. So yeah, it's like against their like policies and code of conduct. So it's like it can get bad if you do that. probably resulting in, I don't know, maybe kicking you out of the course. So yeah, I definitely try not to rely on it at all for that either. But I have used it a couple times. I've used Grammarly, which they also make you source for like some English classes I've been in. But okay, so we have our config. We can make our config in our resources now. And I usually like to format it with a header and stuff. There we go. I usually like to put in roots developed by. But yeah, just think of like plagiarism in general. A lot of people, a lot of places don't will heavily frown upon that, and so yeah. Okay, so here's our plugin, config.yml. We don't have anything to put in it yet as of now since our plugin is so bare bones, but maybe we can say, maybe we can incorporate something into our listener here, and our reload command actually. So we're gonna say notify of block break. Tell the player which block they break. So that is usually how I format my my configs. Formatting, it definitely changes over time, that's for sure. So just do something you're comfortable with, stick with it. I usually like to have all the keys as lowercase and I separate them with hyphens. But yeah, so notify block break. We'll use this to change up our listener a little bit. So first off, I want to have we need a well, right now, after we're done with this config example, I'm gonna switch over to paper and showcase all the differences between Spigot and paper, because there's quite a big difference between the commands. Ah, thank you. I try to be more confident in my speaking lately. So yeah. Yeah, so let's make a okay, so we need to reload our config in our command, but we also need to access the variable from our command to change it, and we also need to access our variable in our listener. So I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna have it in here for now. It's private boolean notify block break. Right, so we're gonna have it like that, and we're gonna say we're gonna make another method here, public void on reload, just kind of like the same as on disable, on enable, and on load. We're gonna have another one for on reload, which isn't overridden because there isn't an on reload method in the Java plugin class or interface, whatever. We're making our own basically, and we're gonna call it in our reload command. So we're gonna say on notify block break equals config yml. You know what? We actually need to make a method to get our file configuration here. Options. There you go. I usually like to call it options just so that it looks better when we type it out and access it. Get boolean, and we'll say we'll make sure this key is correct. Notify block break. Nope, that's not how I wanted to copy it. There you go. So notify block break, and we'll default it to true, just like it's defaulted in the config here. So in case you remove it from the config for any reason, it'll still return something, which it should anyways for a boolean, at least for file configuration. And before we get this, we want to say config save and config reload, right? And now we can simply call on reload right here, and we need a getter for our listener to get the notify block break. Should notify block break. There we go. Now we have our on reload here. It'll be called in our on enable. That way it just, you know, sets the I've never heard of that guy. Yeah, that's fine though. Oh. Alright, I'll have to... Okay, you're only timed out for 5 seconds. It's okay. I did delete your messages though, but that's alright. I'll change that in a bit. Yeah, don't worry about it. You're fine. Okay, so we have our so we have our on reload. We're gonna make a subcommand in here. So return true right here, so we don't need an else statement. Reload, and then long start system current time milliseconds minus start. Okay, and we're gonna say reloaded in MS, and then we're gonna say basic tutorial get instance on reload, and that's all we need to do. So basically what I just did here is I set a current time for, you know, the current time that it is when we call the subcommand, and then I reload, and then I calculate how much time it took to reload by taking the current time now minus the start time, and that'll return how much time has passed in milliseconds between from the start to the end of reloading, and then we send that to the player. And then let's go down here and we shall add another subcommand here to our list. So instead of just help, it's also help and reload. We don't have to change any of this because it's automatic. Yeah, we're reloading the config.yml. So yeah, we updated our tab completer, updated our subcommands, and we're done here. So now in our basic listener, we can say private basic tutorial public basic listener basic tutorial equals. So I'm just gonna set it here like that. That way I don't have to call get instance every time. And then we will basically we don't have to call get instance every time because we're setting this to a reference of this instance, which is so it's not a new one, it's the same instance. So now we'll say if basic tutorial dot should notify will return if it shouldn't notify when we break a block. That's about it. And we can also make this final. And okay, we're good to go. This instance, or this constructor here, will be called in our main class right here when we call new basic listener. So yeah, okay, we should be good to go. We can go ahead and test this out. Alright. And notice our plugin size is only 7 kilobytes right now. That's how tiny code is, and you know, that's pretty cool in my eyes. Pretty great. And only your plugin should only get bigger if you implement libraries and different stuff like that. I don't even know I don't know how big Ashtray is, but I don't think it's that big either, despite it being a bigger multi-module plugin. But okay, so we have basic, and then we have help and reload that we can do. So reloaded, yep, there we go, 2 milliseconds. Plugins, you can see we generated the basic tutorial folder, and inside of it is our config.yml, which has exactly what we put in it. So our notify block break is true. We can break a block, progress block, you know. And then if we want, we can go here, we can set it to false, and then save it. Then we can reload again. It should be false. Yep. So now it doesn't notify us whenever we break a block. That's just a configuration, and yeah. And if you're wondering why we didn't just say, why we didn't just go in here and say, basic tutorial, get config YML options, get boolean. Why we didn't just do this is because that way you're going to be calling and reading from the config every time you break a block, and it's definitely not beneficial. So instead, we simply store it in a boolean that is only changed, and it only reads from the config whenever you manually reload from the reload command. Not slash reload, but our reload sub command here. So yeah, there we go. There's our basic Spigot stuff. So if anyone here is watching in the future and is a little confused, feel free to join the Discord and ask anything you need. But now we're going to go ahead and get on to the paper side. So yeah, we're going to go back to our build.gradle, and instead of using paper API, we're going to use paperweight, which includes the paper API and unobfuscated NMS mappings. So we're going to copy this plugin here, 2.0.0-beta.13 to work with 1.21.4. We paste that up here, and I'm going to change this to format better with Groovy, Gradle Groovy instead of Kotlin. I believe that was formatted as. So there we go. Now it's the same format as ID Java up here. Yeah, it's live, so it saves under my live tab on my channel. Those are all my previous live streams. That's why I like YouTube. You don't have to like record separately as opposed to Twitch. Alright. So here we have now we can get rid of this as well. We don't need this repository. I don't even think we need Maven local for now. And now we replace this as well. So we remove that. Go back here and we copy this here, dependencies. Paste that in there. Dev bundle. I believe that it requires Gradle 8.12, so it won't work if you don't have 8.12. So when you're creating your project and you select a Gradle version, if it doesn't allow you to select 8.12, don't worry, just come down here after you created the project into terminal and type in /gradlew wrapper --gradle version equals 8.12, hit enter, and you'll be good to go. But you can't do that if this dev bundle or this plugin is in there. So just comment that out, run the command in the terminal, and then once it's done, you can put these in there and reload. And it might take a bit to build if it's your first time importing this. And hold on, someone's entering through the front door, so I'll mute for a second. Alright, and I'm back. Hopefully you're not too loud out there. Anyways, so yeah, it's building down here. Might take a little bit the first time you build a specific version or add it. So yeah. Okay, there we go. So now we have paper instead of Spigot in our plugin. You see everything still imports correctly. And now we can say, we can assemble it again. Go here, copy it. It's now 8 kilobytes. That's fine. Stop the server. Maybe. Alright, so we run it. And we should see that it'll still run just fine. Even though we didn't make any changes. Even though we replaced Spigot with paper as well. So we go in there, we say basic reloaded, yep, help, you know, all that stuff. We go back into our config and we switch it to true, save it, reload, listener still works and all that stuff. So yeah. But now we want to update from Spigot stuff, old Spigot stuff, to the modern and new paper stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and go back into here. And first things first, you might actually notice it still says bucket plugins, right? Our plugin still listed under bucket instead of, and not paper. And I'll show you why in a second. So right now actually. And the reason for that is because we're still using a normal plugin.yml. We want to actually change this into a into paper-plugin.yml. And doing this will probably prevent it from working on a Spigot server, but I don't think anybody should be using Spigot anyways. So yeah, the paper-plugin.yml is different in quite a few ways from the plugin.yml. First being it does require an API version, so if you don't have that, it will yell at you in console and disable your plugin automatically. So it does require that. That's fine because it's not hard to add. And then commands. There's no room in paper plugin.yml to have commands. So you remove that and you're good to go. It does still have permissions though, but I don't use that. So here we go. There's our paper plugin.yml. It's just basic stuff, basic plugin information. Our config.yml can stay the same because that's not dependent on which API we're using. So now, what happened since we removed our command from the plugin.yml? How do we register it? Well, first off, we're going to have to do a bit more for our commands. So instead of our basic command here with our command executor implementation, tab splitter implementation, we can make a new one. First off, I'm going to say new. I'm going to do a command manager here. I'm going to say private lifecycle event manager, and we're going to do I think it's command source stack. No, this one is plugin. Just like that. I'm going to make a constructor lifecycle event manager equals basic tutorial dot get instance dot get lifecycle manager, just like that. Pretty simple. And then we can go ahead and ignore our unstable API warnings because it's fine. And then now we're going to make an abstract class to help us make Brigader commands easier. Abstract command, I'm going to say private, actually protected final not null string name for the command name. Protected final nullable description, or actually I think description can't be null. Protected final not null list string. So we're just gonna make all these not null. Okay, I have abstract command here, and we're gonna pass in all of our information. Not null string name, not null string description, and final not null list string aliases. So obviously this dot name equals name, this dot description equals description, and this dot aliases equals new of aliases. That way we're copying it and not setting it to a reference of whatever we're passing in. And then we're going to say public, not null, public abstract, sorry, not null, literal command node, command source stack. And we're going to import the interface from paper MC, not the class from NMS. Right, and then we're going to also ignore unstable API and warnings for the class. And I'm going to call this node. And since it's abstract, we don't need to add any implementation for it. We're just declaring it. We don't need to define it here. We also need abstract up here as well. So here we go. If you don't know what not null means and at nullable means, it just helps your IDE tell you in other places that, oh, this shouldn't be null, this can't return null. That means you don't have to do null check when you call node, for example. So that's helpful with that. So there we go, and we can go back to our command manager now, and we could say public void register, and we could pass in an abstract command. And to register, we get our lifecycle event manager, and we say register event handler, and then we say lifecycle events dot commands, and then we say event, and there we go. We do some lambda here. We say event registrar register command dot node, command dot description, and command dot aliases. You might notice we don't pass in the command name. That's because that'll be passed in to the node that we're making instead. We shouldn't actually need the whole lambda bracket either, since it's only one line in here. So we can have it look just like that, and we're done. Okay. So we have our abstract command done pretty much. Now we can replace our basic command here with something else. I'm actually going to make a new package called IMPL, standing for implementation, or implemented. I'm going to move that into there. That means that we're going to implement, anything in here should implement abstract command right here. So here, public class, I'm going to make this final, so it can't extend basic command, because we don't need to. And instead of implementing command executor and tab completer, I'm going to say extends abstract command that we just made. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and comment all this out now, since we don't need it. I'm just going to use it for reference now. And now I'm going to go ahead and implement the node method and create a matching super constructor, which means we just take in the parameters and we pass it into the abstract commands constructor. But since we're making a command, not a template for a command, we don't need any of these parameters. We should already have them. We should basically hard code them into the super. So we're going to say super basic description, a basic man or paper. And then I'm going to say aliases list of, and Uniton wanted to have something named after him, so there you go. Alright, since there's only one string in the list, we can say collections dot singleton list. There we go. So this is our super. We're basically passing all this information into the abstract class. Into the abstract command class so that this can do what it needs to do. So it'll set all of these variables in here for this class. Yeah. Okay. So now we have our, I'm gonna again suppress this for that. Go ahead and remove unused imports. And now this is where we're gonna create our command instead of an on command method or whatever. So instead of return null, it shouldn't be null anyways, let's say return commands from io.paper.mc there, not sorry, not that one. Commands I think it's actually from the interface here. Yeah. So the interface, you're going to import io_paper_mc paper_command.brigader.commands, the interface, not the class. And you say .literal, and we're going to pass in our name from the super. The super or base class being abstract command. And the reason we could just say name is because it's protected in the class up here. It's not private, so we can actually access it and do whatever we want with it. Except we can't because it's also final, so we can't change it because it's final, but we can access it and read it basically. And then we say build. So there we go. This is a basic command. It's not going to have any implementation as of right now, but that's how you return a literal command node. You get commands.literal, you put in the name of the command, and then you just do that build to build it. Since the literal returns a literal argument builder. We can go ahead and press space on that, whoops, to space out a little bit, and then we're going to say executes context. There's a lambda method here. Return 1. So instead of return true or false, you return 0 or 1. And we're basically going to take what's in this if statement here from our old spigot command, and we're just going to copy that over to our new command up here. Just like that. And say, oh, what about the sender? You don't have the sender. I'm like, okay, well, we can get that. Command sender equals context.getSource.getSender. And there you go, you have your sender. Just like normal. We can also say if sender instance of player, you have separate implementation here for your player or for your console if you were to execute from console if you wanted to. But we don't need that. We just need the sender. Chat color, we're not going to have chat color anymore since paper has mini message built in, and mini message is basically the new better format for coloring in strings, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. I can actually show you the basic implementation for mini message. Mini message. So you can do it like that. It's really simple. Mini message, you know, call it whatever you want, and then you set it go to mini message, the interface dot mini message, which is a static instance getter basically. And this you can use for chat, for any message in chat, but it's not safe to use in inventories or on items, in lore or whatever, or in console, because it has a lot of different tags in it, like hovering over text, clicking on text. That's not going to work on an item in your inventory. So I don't use this for an inventory, but I use this for chat messages. So you can use this for chat messages all you want. And we're going to say sender send message mini message dot serialize, and we're going to pass in our string there. And this is a red message, so instead of $C, we're going to type red just like that, and that'll turn it red. Same thing down here, mini message dot serialize, and we're going to pass in aqua just like that. And there we go. And what the serialize does is it takes the string that you input here and it turns it into a text component, or a component, and then it sends a component to the player. This is really handy in paper because I have built-in methods. They have built-in methods to send components, not just strings. So in Spigot, this wouldn't have been easy to do because you have to use mini message or Avenger API's audience feature to send the message as a component instead of just the player or the sender. But you know, paper fixes that right up, and you don't have to do all that roundabout work of converting the player to an audience. And then but you can use mini message in Spigot. It's just a bit harder, especially when it comes to items and inventories. There's no built-in methods for components for that. but in paper there is, which is great. You can set a component right onto a item stack's display name, no problem. So yeah, mini message is great. As it's built into paper, it's kind of the future of color coding as well. So you got red, you got aqua, you got all the legacy colors built in already, so you don't have to worry about that. We can actually go and check out everything that comes with mini message here. Under standard tags, this is what you can use with this instance here of mini message. You can use any tag on this page, and that is docs.adventure advntr.dev/mini message/format.html. So standard tags, you got color down here, and this is how you can format it, right? So you say color name, any Minecraft color constant, black, dark _ blue, dark _ green, dark _ aqua, dark _ red. These are all the standard legacy colors that we had with Ensign C and all that stuff. And then there's further coloring that you can do. You can say color : color name, or you could say color name or hex. So you could say color yellow, color hex color. That's already built in. You don't need to do anything special for hex colors. You have decorations like underline, bold, italic, all that stuff. Obfuscated is what Ensign K would have been, and reset is what Ensign R would have been. So yeah, you can also do, so you can do like bold or E, italic, EM or I, underline or U, strike through or ST, obfuscated or OBF, or standing for obfuscated. And then there's even more. So there's, reset we just covered, and there's click, so you can do click text, so you can make them run a command when they click on the text that you send them. You have hover, so you can show more text when you hover over the text that you send them. There's keybind, which I don't know what you use that for. So I guess it executes a key when you press it or something. Press. Okay, no, I see. It just translates their currently configured keybind for jump, and sends that to them. So it says press red key.jump to jump, and this is press space to jump. So that's really handy. It's translatable. Allows displaying Minecraft messages using player locale, so that's also helpful. There's insertion with click this to insert. So I assume it just inserts it into their chat. Yeah, insert test, it'll go down there. There's rainbow as well, so you can easily implement rainbow color gradients as well. It's really handy. This is why I love mini message. It just handles pretty much everything for you. You got transitions, you got fonts, you got new line, which is helpful for like lore or something, or sending messages with multiple lines. You got selector, which is like the built-in Minecraft stuff, like Ensign S, Ensign E, whatever. There's score for teams and objectives. NBT for different stuff. Pride, I don't know what pride is for. Colors and text. Okay, so you got pride flag stuff right there. So just built in, basically a built-in color gradient, or a couple color gradients as the looks of things. So yeah, if you're into that, there you go. Easy, you don't have to do it manually, I guess. So yeah, that's what mini message has to offer. It's really great, in my opinion. So there we go. We already have our base command done and converted over to paper, more specifically Brigader. So we already did this whole thing right here. So how do we do subcommands now? Well, personally, what I like to do is, I'll show you. But to do that, you're gonna come outside of the executes method here, and you're gonna go before the build method, say .then. I'm going to do another literal command here. Help, right? And then you're going to do another executes there. So this code in here will execute whenever they do name space help. So now we can copy over our help code, which is just send message, context, get source, get sender. There we go. And then we can return 1. There's our help subcommand done, and then then we're gonna make our reload subcommand as well. I'm gonna go ahead and copy over this stuff here. We're gonna import our main class, and of course, copy this, paste it here, since we're only messaging them once, and then return 1. Just like that. And now our command is done. We have our help and our reload subcommand. Where you put .then is very important, because you can go down here under this literal and you can say .then again and chain another subcommand onto that. So you want to make sure you're doing them where you want them to actually be. And what I like to do, because this looks really messy, I like to come down underneath the node method that we're overriding, and I like to make my own private methods inside of our command class. And this will be literal argument builder command source stack from there, and I call this one help because it's our help subcommand. And then I simply say, I take this and I say return that, just like that, and we're done. I can do the same thing for our reload. Private, not null, literal argument builder, and source stack, reload. And then we just return this, just like that. So now, what do we do now that we have them in separate methods? We still need them to be changed to our initial base command node, right? That's simple. We just say .then, and we say help, and then we say .then, and then we call reload, just like that. It makes it look a lot better, in my opinion. It's not as messy. It's not all crammed into this one method. And you can make any amount of methods that you want, just like you normally would in any other class. And now we can get rid of all this, since we don't need it anymore for reference. We can actually look at it to compare. This is all we need. We have our basic command information. We have our basic command here, just the base command. Then we have our 2 arguments. You look at this, and then you look at everything down here, and you look at all these if statements in this one method. Technically, you could split these off into other methods if you wanted to, but you really, for this amount of code, you don't need that. And then you see our tab completer, which we don't need anymore. You say, but like, hey, what about suggesting to type help or reload? Wouldn't you need to do that? And the answer is no, because Brigader does that for you. Since you're returning a literal command node, you have to literally type out help or reload. That's what literal means. It means you literally have to type this out. And so it just automatically suggests it for you depending on where you put it in the command. And if it's a subcommand of help or of reload or of just a base command. And we'll look at that in a bit. So there we go. There's our new updated command. Looks great in my opinion. I know this doesn't exactly look very flattering, but it's, you can really break it down into the most like small methods you need. So what about permissions? You might be thinking, because we don't have the command in our Plugin.yml anymore where you would normally put command permissions. Well, that's pretty simple as well. For every literal or command argument you have, you can say .requires, and then we can do a permission requirement there. But this actually takes in a predicate. So what I like to do is go to our abstract command here and say public static not null predicate command source stack, just like that, and say permission requirement, and then we pass in string permission. This is a permission node from a string. And I believe we say, I'm gonna have to look at Astra because I don't remember how to do this exactly. But it is in my Astra repository. So common commands, for Gator command is my abstract implementation, or abstract one. So yeah. So this is how you do it. We simply say, since it's a predicate, we say return. We get our source stack, and then we use a lambda expression. And so now we have access to our command source stack that we would have like a normal command. We say sender equals get source, or get sender. Is it not get source? No, it's not. And then we say if sender instance of player. So if it's a console running the command, we just return true. Otherwise, we return player has permission, and then the permission we passed in. And there we go. Now we have this method here that we can use anywhere else. I'm going to say in our dot requires, we're going to say requires permission requirement, and we pass in whatever permission we want. I'm going to say basic tutorial dot command. Or I'm just going to say dot admin, since this is technically an admin command. So there we go. Now our command requires us to have the permission of basic tutorial.admin. And say, okay, well now you have this. How do you check? How do you like send them a message if they don't have permission and they try to execute the command? Well, the answer to that is you don't have to do that, because if they don't have permission for it, it won't even show up in their command list, and you won't be able, and they won't be able to type it. If they try to type it out, Minecraft will kick in and they'll be like, hey, that's not a valid command. What are you talking about? It's like it won't even, it'll act like basically like the command doesn't even exist for them if they don't have the permission. And we can do the same thing down here. We could say requires admin.help, just like that, and then we can go down here and do the same thing here for subcommand permissions. .reload, just like that, and we're done with permissions. Okay, so now we say, oh, okay, well, we can't register it like this. How do we register it? We just get our command manager that we made, and we say command manager.register new basic command, and we're done. Now our command is registered just like that. Very simple. Not hard at all. So let's go ahead and run this. Right. Build successful. Yep. Okay. Stop the server. It's very. I like to use Final whenever I can, because it helps code readability. Say someone's looking at your plugin or your Java project on GitHub or something, and they're reading through it. They look at this variable here. They're like, okay, well, this is a final variable. It means they're not going to change it anywhere else in this method. It just helps with readability in this sense. But if we do final in a variable, like here, it means you can't change this variable. It's especially helpful if you have if you don't have it private. So that means when it's accessed from another class, you can't change it because it's final. So that's why you use final there in this regard. I guess you could, but I don't know why you would need it. I might post it on GitHub. But yeah, so now we have it built. Let's go ahead and put it in here. Run it. Yeah, I really don't care if you have it or if it's on GitHub. I mean, I'm streaming it, so everyone can see the code anyways. Okay. Now we can do plugins, and oh look, our plugin is now listed under paper plugins, not bucket plugins. Because it's no longer using the plugin.yml. And this only shows up if we're on a paper server, which you should be. even if you're not making a paper plugin. Just because paper is a much better server than Spigot these days, especially modern versions. Okay, let's try our command. Basic. And you can see it also has the alias already registered, just like that. So, basic. It has our plugin key before it as well that we could do. And there we go. See, our tab completion is already in here. If we just do /basic, it says you ran the basic command, red, colorful message, aqua message, just like we had before. And then we could say help. We ran the help subcommand, yep. And you'll notice if I type HE, it doesn't show or suggest reload because it does that for us basically. Unlike before when I was talking about tab completion, we had to do that ourselves. So there we go. And also when we type space, it'll say incorrect argument for command at position because there's no other arguments after reload. If it was to type something, it's red, which is really cool. It's another perk of Brigader, just like time, set, day, or whatever. Or if I type in a number here, just like this, it's using the same command system as vanilla Minecraft commands. So you have all the same functionality that they would have. So do reload, and there we go, reloaded. See, that works as well. Everything's good to go. Listener's still good because we didn't change anything. Paper-config.yml, don't need that. It's not a thing. This file here is completely independent, whether we're using Spigot or paper. This is what we made. Yeah. Our YAML config class doesn't need to change anything in it because we made it independently from Spigot API. Besides file configuration. File configuration is from the Spigot API, which is also in paper, since paper is built off of Spigot for now. So yeah. So here's our basic Brigader command. And okay, so we have examples of literal arguments like help and reload. How do we do an optional or a player input subcommand? Like, what about calculate and then 10 plus 5, for example? Let's make this example. So calculate will be a literal, and then these two will be arguments. They'll be called arguments, not literals or subcommands. So let's go make another one. Calculate. There we go. So return commands.literal calculate, and then say requires permission requirement basic tutorial admin calculate. There we go. Executes context return 1. Okay. So now what happens if we just type out basic space calculate? Let me go ahead and comment in our what each one is specifically. And then up here, slash basic. And then obviously we're gonna have .then calculate, just like that, as a third subcommand, or third literal command chained onto it. So yeah. And just to note, the basic command, if you're just to type out the first, the first string in a command has to be a literal. It can't be an argument. It'll be we'll just do addition. Yeah. Or we could code in a third literal, with each operator if we wanted to. I think we could do that. So we'll have a command like 10 and then an operator here that we could type in, and then a third number. We could do that. It's easy. Okay. So calculate, what happens if we just type calculate? If we just type this, we're going to have it send them a usage message. So context get source, get sender, send message, enter an expression. I'm gonna say example basic calculate 10 plus 5. We can do that. Okay. Now, so we have our first part of the command, calculate. Now we want a second part. So we're gonna go ahead and just make another method. Again, you don't have to make multiple methods, but it's a lot easier. So this one is gonna be calculate first number. The name doesn't matter. The name of the method could be anything you want. And so what do we do here? What do we input here? So instead of literal argument builder, I'm going to say required argument builder. And it's going to take in not just command source stack, but also the type of command we want to return, or argument that we want to return, and that's going to be integer. Or we could do double. Okay. And so instead of returning commands.literal, we're going to return commands.argument. We're going to say first. We're going to name it first, and then it's going to be a double argument type dot double arg, and we're going to input 0 as the minimum that they can enter, or actually, yeah. So they can't enter anything lower than minimum, or than the minimum here. But actually, I don't really care, so I'm just going to leave that there. We don't need this require statement, because it's going to not show up if we don't have the permission, because it's going to be attached to calculate. So we have calculate already linked up to our base command here, so we type basic and then space, it'll show up. But we also need to link this to calculate. So what I need to do is just chain it down here, calculate first number, just like that. So now we can say, so now they enter the number, the first number, then what? We're going to say enter an expression. I'm going to say enter an operation. Right. Next, we're going to say like that. That's the that's where we're at for this method. So I'm going to copy this here, and we're going to also make it a required argument builder. That way we don't have to have multiple literal statements. This should be a string, and instead of double argument type, we're going to say operator, and we're going to say, is there a character argument type? No. So string argument type dot word. There are different string argument types, actually. So there's word string and greedy string. Greedy string, I think, is if I was to type slash message like this, and then whatever here, this is a greedy string. This whole thing, everything here is one argument technically. I believe that's a greedy string. It has to be the very last part of a command. It can't be, there can't be another arg after a greedy string, because it'll just count towards the greedy string. So you can't do that. But then there's also string, as opposed to greedy string, which means you have to encase it in quotes, which does allow other arguments afterwards as well. So that's the difference between a string and a greedy string. And a word is just one word. So if you space, so think of it like a literal, except you could type in whatever you want. And that's what a word string argument type is. Calculate operator, basic calculate, operator. That's where we're at. So we have the operation. So enter a second number now, since they put in Since they put in their operator at this point, we can just say, oh, you need a second number now. Just like this one. Okay, so now we can go here, copy, required argument builder. We're gonna go back to double. Nope. There you go. Double argument type dot double arg. Okay. There you go. So now we're gonna say okay. Now we're gonna actually calculate whatever we input, because now we have it like this and that. And instead of naming operator, we have to name it something else. So second. You are not supposed to be there. Actually, yes, you are. Okay, something happened, in which case it didn't actually paste in what I was doing. So don't worry about that. Calculate second number. Second. Okay, now we're gonna take in whatever. Now we're gonna actually calculate. So you say double first equals double argument type dot get double, pass in the context, and we're gonna pass in the name of the argument. In this case, it's first. So the name is whatever we put in here from commands to argument. So now we have our first double, and we know it's a double because Brigader checks it for us. We don't have to check. We know that it is a double argument. Now we can say string operator, string argument type, get string, context operator. Okay, now we have our operator. Second double argument type, get double, context, second. Right, just like that. Very easy. We just have to check if the operator is what we want it to be, and not just any random string, which we could do right in here. We can say, make it final. You say if operator equals in our case plus. We could do that, but that would be a lot of stuff I don't want to do. So instead, I'm going to make my own argument type, especially to help explore Brigader further in this tutorial. I'm going to say arguments, and I'm going to say math operator argument type. And this extends a custom argument type, and I believe it has to be a string there. Let me check, because I've done this again in here somewhere. Arguments, material argument type. So this implements argument type, but it should implement something else. Okay, I'm not sure. I know that I've worked on this somewhere else. But they want you to extend custom argument, or implement, sorry. They want you to implement custom argument type, not argument type. I'm just gonna do string. Actually, you know what we could do? We could look at string argument type as an example. Argument type string. Yep. I'm gonna have to check, make sure. Not sure where exactly I used it at. Oh well. We're just gonna go with it. Is there a custom type with an argument native to vanilla Minecraft? Okay, so yeah, like string. So yeah, string will work. So now we have the parse method that we override. In which case Right. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna say private static final not null list set string valid operators. Okay. Valid operators equals set dot of, and they're gonna have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and we can do modulo. So we can actually make this a set of characters, in which case all of these have to be characters, not strings, just like that. So there we go, we have a set of valid operators, and that way we don't have to make multiple if statements to check if it's valid. All we have to do is say reader get read, I believe this is the input, if valid operators contains input. So there we go. If it doesn't contain input, get string maybe? I'm not sure. Oh. There's a lot of methods here that not sure, because I don't have any documentation for it since it's Mojang. So this may not contain objects of string, right? So first off, so if it's greater than 1 that they put in, then we're gonna throw an exception instead of returning. And syntax exception dot built-in exceptions dot unknown argument, I think, or maybe, yeah. So we're gonna say not parse exception. No command. Which one's a command syntax exception? All these are. Okay, yeah. So unknown argument. Not create. Sure. Is there dot create with context? Forget how I did this previously. Basically, they have a lot of built-in methods to handle different command inputs and stuff. Maybe I can make my own command syntax exception. I don't know. I think I'm gonna try and stick with the built-in ones. Unknown argument dot. I want to be able to just send a message or something. Okay, we're just passing reader. Okay, so now if doesn't, we're gonna say this. No. Equals input car at 0. There you go. There we go. Now we're getting the character, the first character they input, which is, which they should only input 1 anyways by this point, so it should be good. I'm gonna throw in another one right there. Okay. and we're gonna say return C. You know what? Whatever. We're just gonna make this all string stuff. It's a lot it's a lot easier this way. Turn input. Here we go. And now we can also just do an or statement there. Now we don't need to do all that. There we go. We're done. Get native type should just be a string or something. Yeah, we can override list suggestions as well. So I'm going to do that. First off, suppress for class. Okay. All right. Suggestion provider, shared suggestion provider dot suggest valid operators. No, it's definitely shared suggestion provider dot something. I think it's just suggest, right? Oh yeah, because then you pass in the builder as well. Valid operators builder. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right, so now we're gonna it's gonna suggest one of these operators when you try and type in something. So we don't have to do that in our command. Return. Here we go. Return word because it's the native type. And I think we're good. Although we need a public static not null string get operator command context. And then for the argument name, right? So we're gonna get it from the command context, and to do that, we're gonna look over at double, for example. Public static get double here. Context get argument name and then the class. So get argument name string not class. It's like that, I believe. There we go. So now we can go down here and say operator string. We're gonna keep it as a string, but then we're gonna say math operator argument type dot operator, and we're gonna go ahead and make that method as well, because we don't want them to create a new one on their own. So what we need to do is make our default constructor private. We don't need to do this technically, but it's easier to do to have it work the same way that the other argument types work, the default ones. In which case we simply have a static method to get it. That's operator argument type operator return new. There we go. And this is helpful if you have a parameter you want to pass in, or different types like string argument type has different types, or double argument has different parameters you can pass in for like the minimum and the maximum. So they do that instead of just allowing you to create with new and parameters and calling the constructors basically. So there we go. Math operator argument type dot operator. That's our custom one. It should work. Should suggest the different operators, and then down here we have our operators. We know that it's a valid operator now because it's a specific argument type, not just any normal string, or should be. So now we don't have to do any checking down here if these are actual valid arguments. All we need to do is check which operator it is, and perform the operation, which we could make another utility thing for down here, which instead of this list here, we'd actually make an enum, public static enum operator. We could say plus or addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulo. So we do that, and then we could say private string symbol operator symbol shouldn't be nullable. And so now we go up here, plus subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulo. There we go. Make this a character. There we go. Okay. Now we can actually make a list in here. Static, not null, set string valid operators, new hash set. Now we can say operator 4, final operator dot values. This is how you loop through an enum. Oh, you mean like exponents? I guess we could do that. Exponent, in which case the symbol would be a caret like that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so then we can say, since we are looping through every operator, we don't have to do anything extra to add this. We simply say valid operators dot add operator dot symbol. Here we go, and let's just make it a string. Again, I don't want to deal with all this character to string nonsense right now. There we go. Okay. There we go. Let's say operator.valid operators instead. Operator.valid operators. Cool. And base. Oh, you mean like... Yeah, I don't know what you mean by base, I'm gonna be honest. Okay, so we have everything here. Now we can say... We can probably say... operator instead of string there, in which case we need to return an operator here. So return operator dot value of input, or we could say try catch legal argument exception E, and this. There we go. So now we're definitely getting an operator, and we don't have to convert it to our enum value. And get operator has to return an operator. Okay, how do we convert this one? Should we just say operator value of, and then that, probably like that. Oh, actually, value of won't work because this isn't a symbol. We need to do like another public static method. Get from symbol. What we could do is have a map here. Or actually we could do a map of operators like that. So we could say operators by symbol. So in which case we'd say symbol new hash map. In which case we would also say operators symbol put operator to symbol to operator, right? And now no string input symbol, actually, there we go. Turn operator by symbol, get or default symbol operator dot addition as default. Okay. Just getting a little bit out of hand, but have all our static stuff up here and whatnot. We could, you mean by using value? That's what this is for, because we don't want to type in addition, subtraction, or whatever. We want to type in the symbol, but we can't use the symbol as the enum value. So I'm doing this. Get from symbol, there we go. So we're passing in the symbol, basically, is what we're doing. There we go. Or we could actually, instead of this, we could say contains key. If it doesn't contain key, and now we can actually remove valid operators set and just have the one hash map. Okay. So we're actually going to need to do this as well. Operator by symbol key set, like that, instead of the set that we had. Okay, should be good to go here. We need to go back here. Okay, so now we have our operator, our first argument, and our second argument. Okay. So now we actually want to make a method for our math operations here. And we'll parse double 1 and double 2. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna do a switch statement here. Switch this. Case addition. We're gonna return switch, not just a normal switch statement. 1 plus 2. Right. Right. Case subtraction 1 minus 2. Case multiplication 1 times 2. Yes, I know it does not cover all of them. I didn't get to that yet. Okay, 1 divided by 2. 1 modulo 2. And finally, math.val 1, 2. Okay. There we go. It should be good. Now we just need to say we need the sender context get source, get sender. We might actually be able to just use it like this. Result, operator parse 1, 2, or first, second. There we go. There we go. Have our solution there. We make these final, of course. This one was already final. Okay. There we go. And our calculations are done. Again, didn't have to check. Didn't have to make sure this was actually a double. Didn't have to make sure this was an operator. Didn't have to make sure this was second or another double. Just Brigadier does that for us, especially now that we have our own argument type for this and not just a string. Hopefully it works. We're going to get to that and we're going to fix it if it doesn't. So don't worry about that. Okay. Let's, I guess, run this and see how it'll work. This all should just happen automatically. This map should fill by itself since it's just in a static block. It shouldn't occur because we're using double. So you can input to the max of a double. There's always going to be some kind of limitations or whatever. Normally it'll just convert it to scientific notation if it's too big to display. And that's fine. We're not doing anything super advanced here. Let's go ahead and run this, see if there's any errors. It's quite possible. Okay, our version, we need to fix that. We need to go into our build.gradle and we need to change this to paper-plugin.yml, not plugin.yml. Okay. Let's stop that, and there was no errors enabled. Fine, it looked like, there we go. If we were to open this in archive and open this, okay. Did I rebuild it? I don't know if I rebuilt it. No. Okay, I don't think it builds because it doesn't detect any code changes, so we're just gonna have to delete it and try and assemble it again. Hopefully that should do it. No? It's being a little annoying. Oh well. Did Gradle, I think I might have to reload Gradle or something. Just go ahead and comment this out and then try and reload Gradle again. Just to be sure, let's delete the jar we made and let's assemble it again. Okay. Not properties, I want open archive. Okay, it's not working. Maybe like this. I feel like it was working before I changed it to paper, but I bet this is taking a little while. Nope, does not want to work. Okay, whatever. Just gonna go on testing what we were working on. Yeah, I don't know. Normally this works just fine. I don't have any issues with it. I don't normally ever even use that, for example. But oh well. Okay. Doesn't matter too much right now. Okay. Did we actually chain these correctly. Calculate first number. No, we didn't. Then calculate operator. Okay, and now operator has dot then calculate second number. There we go. Now that should work better. Or should work in general, I should say. I forgot to do that. So basically it'll just chain it down, right? So we have the node command, we type out /basic, then we space to calculate, it'll run down to calculate, and then we put another space, it'll run down to calculate first number, we put another space, it'll run down to operator, we put another space, run down to the second number. So that's basically how that works. Okay. Calculate first 10.5 operator. See, perfect. Suggests whichever operators that we can use. Second, let's do 10.5 as well. Nope. Incorrect argument. Did we do something wrong with that? No. I think it's having trouble with our operator argument type. Yeah. Okay. It's having trouble with that, so we might just have to change it. So what if we say enter an operation plus, yeah, it's having trouble with our custom argument type. Maybe it's like string and then operator. Math operator argument type dot operator. If it's like that, and that means no, I think this turns into a string. Okay, it's definitely the other way around here. Oh, maybe no. I'm not sure. Let's just ignore this, right? And let's just do it on our own record, which we can totally do. String dot word argument type dot word. There we go. Double. Yep. This is now going to be a string. Operator string. String argument type. Get string. Okay. And now we can just simply check. Equals operator from symbol operator string. Okay, and it will default to addition, or it should, and then we can just go on from there. It's not too much work. But basically, all I'm trying to demonstrate is how to do command arguments and not just literals. And this is just basically how you do it. It's basically the same way, except you have a second argument here, a second parameter, and you use dot argument instead of dot literal. And you chain them together until you got the last argument that you want to input, and then you just, you do everything in the last one. Basically. It's pretty simple, but I can see how it'd be confusing. Plus 10.5. Result 21.0. 10 to the power of 2. I don't think it counts this as a string. Alright, well, you get the gist of it. Some things are strings, sometimes some things it doesn't want to count as a string. So what do we do a string instead? That means we have to put it in quotation marks, I believe. So if we put it in quotation marks, it'll definitely recognize it as a string as it's in quotes. Yeah, there we go. Result. There we go. /5 modulo was 0 remainder, because 10 divided by 2 it goes into it evenly. 3, however, will have a remainder of 1. 4 remainder of 2, etc., etc. Plus 5, 15. You know, all that stuff. If you wanted 26 divided by 3.14. There you go. Or plus, sorry. Divided by, there you go. Okay. So that's how you do arguments. Basically you start with a literal, and then you chain on a required argument builder, and then if you have another argument after that, you chain on another argument builder. Or you can chain on a literal after it. So yeah, this is the basics of Brigator. Very simple, especially if you have an abstract class like this that you can just extend and build off of. Very small abstract class, barely has any work at all. Command manager, again, barely any work at all, barely anything in it. So yeah, pretty simple. That's pretty much everything you need to know for it. Yeah. If you want to input a player name, you can suggest players and stuff. Let's say operator. Let's like suggest. Context builder shared suggestion provider dot suggest math argument operator dot operators by symbol key set builder, and we obviously need to make this public static, or maybe just a getter for it. Put it up here, public static set string get valid symbols turns new hash set operators by symbol key set. There you go. And now we can just call that get valid symbols. Here we go. Now we're suggesting which operators to use. Although I believe it will still be required to be in quotes, as we're using a string argument type for that. Whoops. All right. So yeah, that's Brigator for you. That's the main change you might see when you switch over to Paper. The fact that you should use the paper-plugin.yml, but you can still use the normal plugin.yml and the old command executor method or way of making commands, as I demonstrated earlier after we initially switched over to Paper, before I changed our command stuff around. So you can still use a normal plugin.yml, but if you use paper-plugin.yml, which you should, you're going to have to do Brigator stuff and not put them in here, but rather register them through code, which is, again, as I just demonstrated, it's not difficult at all. Argument stuff, you get the gist of it. I think it just didn't work because something. I'll have to look into that more. I'll come back to it in the next Paper tutorial, I suppose. But yeah. Let's see. if the suggestions work as intended. Probably not, because we have to put them in quotations. So maybe we should do a little cheeky stream thing over here. Operators keyset stream map string. Let's say quotes plus s plus quotes keyset. There we go. And now I should suggest with the quotes. And we're gonna refactor this. Get symbol command suggestions. So we're not being like, oh, get valid symbols and then checking them, and then it has quotation marks in it. Hopefully that doesn't break anything either. I don't know. We'll see. If it breaks, it breaks. So we'll revert it, and then we'll move on with our lives. And then you guys can work on whatever you want to work on from the information you've gained. Yeah, there we go. Oh, not you. There we go. So yeah, you can see it automatically suggests whichever one we want to type in. Subtraction, boom, 16. There we go. And we didn't actually use anything except for this enum to make this work, because the actual argument type we were making didn't work. So here you go. Good way to make enums. The only reason this is a public static enum is because it's within another class, by the way. So you don't want to put static up here in the initial class. But yeah. So yeah, there we go. I think it's everything I want to go over. Again, listeners, pretty much the same as Spigot API. Besides mini message stuff, we can replace that all with mini message serialize red reset, like that. There we go. Yeah, and then I would probably change this up a bit, maybe have like the string on its own line, like that, maybe. Okay, but that's it. That's everything. That's all the basics, really, of creating a paper plugin. Paper plugin.yml, listeners, commands. Really great command system, I will say. It's nothing too complicated at all. All you have is one abstract class and a command manager, and you're done. And all you have to do is extend the abstract command whenever you want to make a new one. And you can easily split up the commands and subcommands into their own methods and chain them together, and you don't have to do anything else after that besides register it. Probably in your main class on enable here. So yeah. Whew. I think that'll be all for this tutorial stream here. So yeah. Anyone have any questions before I end the stream? I will be back probably later to stream Warframe. So yeah, well, I think I'll be back a bit later for a different stream. Just because I feel like playing Warframe on stream. It's been years since I last played it. I know there's not many people in chat, but none of y'all have any questions. You guys understand the code? It's not unreadable to you or anything? This is the most complicated thing that we've done. It's just chaining together multiple subcommands and arguments. And the whole tutorial, this is the most complicated part. But it's still not too bad. Alright. Let's say if you miss out on the chance to ask a question now, just ask in my Discord. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next stream. Also, please do suggest any tutorials you want to see, because I might not, I don't really know where to go from here. This is just, you know, the basics. Maybe I'll work on GUI tutorial. I'm probably gonna end it like right now. But yeah, if you guys have any tutorials you want to see, just let me know in my Discord or in the comments of the stream after it ends, and I'll get around to it. Alright. See you guys later.